Assalamualaikum and hi. Today we're going to present our project, which is a Q Cube. It's actually a tactile kinesthetic scaffolding tool for MUET oral fluency. All right, so we consist of four inventors. We are Nur Adila Hakimi, Sharifah Ani ZARITH Syed ZIAUDDIN, Nur SYAFAWATI Muhammad ZUKI, and Nur SHAQIRA ADERA Muhammad SHAH. So we are from Jabatan Bahasa dan Pengajian Umum, Fakulti Perniagaan dan Komunikasi, University Malaysia Perlis. Alright. So this is our Q cube looks like. Alright. So it is actually made of hard cardboard, and it is a physical product which can be used in a classroom. Alright. Especially language classroom. Right. So this is how we plan to have our Q Cube, where students can get their hands on it and they can use this Q Cube as a physical product instead of just fidgeting their fingers, during this oral discussion or group discussion. Okay, so let's watch a video on how we're going to use it with the students.
All right, so F phase 1 is the introduction. Perfect, that's our hook. And this shows the main argument. Right, point 1, we need to explain the why here. Yeah, elaboration is key. All right, so F phase 1 is the introduction. Perfect, that's our hook. And this shows the main argument. Right, point 1, we need to explain the why here. Yeah, elaboration is key. All right, so F phase 1 is the introduction. Perfect, that's our hook. And this shows the main argument. Right, point 1, we need to explain the why here. Yeah, elaboration is key. All right, so F phase 1 is the introduction. Perfect, that's our hook. And this shows the main argument. Right, point 1, we need to explain the why here. Yeah, elaboration is key. All right, so F phase 1 is the introduction. Perfect, that's our hook. And this shows the main argument. Right, point 1, we need to explain the why here. Yeah, elaboration is key. All right.
Okay. So let's move on to the summary. So basically, this Q Cube is actually a non-digital pedagogical tool, and it is designed to bridge the gap between cognitive planning and oral execution. So, by utilizing a six-sided modular 3D structure, it transforms abstract linguistic rules that we have in our brain into a concrete, tactile process. So this innovation basically reduces cognitive load and anxiety while improving speech coherence through physical rotation. All right. So basically, the problems that we have during this oral discussion or oral presentation, especially individual presentation, um, the structural fragmentation. So candidates often fail to achieve band 4.0 due to missing point, elaboration, example, link, cycles, or we call it PEEL, PEEL. All right, where they need to come out with a point and then elaborate and then example, and then they need to link back to the point that they gave earlier. All right. Second problem is that the cognitive freezing, the mental block, where the 2 minute spontaneous speaking requirement leads to mental blocks, where students sometimes lose logical flow. Yeah, because when we are nervous, you see, we tend to lose our words, right? So that's what happened during the oral presentation. All right. The next one is performance anxiety. So high stakes environments normally lack a physical grounding object, which is resulting in restlessness. Sometimes we need something to channel our nervousness, right? Or restlessness. For example, what we found is that the students sometimes they tend to scratch their arms and they tend to fidget with the pencil, their nails, their fingers to channel their restlessness, nervousness. So this Q cube, okay, can actually be a platform for them to channel their nervous feeling to this Q cube. All right. So next, let's move on to the novelty and inventiveness. All right, the first one is it's a kinesthetic anchoring. So turning the cube, okay, when we turn the cube, it triggers the brain to switch linguistic gears for different speech phases. Okay, and as you can see, this 3D cube, it has a very sleek modular interface, a seamless 3D design where each phase acts as a permanent structural prompt for logical flow. And it is actually as a guide for the students to make their speech smooth. All right. And the next one is a hybrid scalability, features a 3D printed tutor version and a low cost foldable cardboard version for for the usage of the students in the class. And it doesn't cost much. All right. Okay. And if you look at the product descriptions, okay, the Q Cube is a modular device. Okay, it's a square cube with color coded faces representing the ideal response flow. So we have the different colors. We have six faces. The first one is teal, orange, yellow, blue, green, red, and every face has different flow. All right. So the first one would be introduction, where students need to um, explain or mention their hook introduction for where it consists of hook and stance. And the orange color, where they need to turn to the orange color, and it is a point one, where they need to mention their primary argument. Okay. And the yellow color, the third phase, is the elaboration where they need to mention the why. All right. And then blue example, they need to give evidences. Green, reiteration linked to prompt. Okay. And the last one is red, conclusion, where they need to make the final summary. Okay. The conclusion. All right. So as you can see, the flow of these color-coded faces as a guide to students in order to make their speech flow smooth, and they don't need to memorize things. So they just need to follow the color-coded faces and maybe add some conjunctions. All right, and they can actually connect their ideas together. All right. So the advantages of our Q Cube is that it's actually an infrastructure independent. So no batteries or internet required, ideal for rural school implementation. It's not only for school but also universities. As the PEEL cycle, the one that I mentioned earlier, um, it is actually used for MUET and IELTS too. MUET and IELTS. All right, so it's not only for school. All right. And second one is that it is an anxiety management. So it acts as a grounding tool to channel nervous energy into structured delivery. All right. Third one, visual analytics for teachers. So instructors can monitor student progress from across the room by identifying the upward facing color. So that makes the lesson more interesting, easy for the students, and also for the instructors too. All right. So, in terms of market potential, so we actually targeting institutions. We would like to licensing the foldable template to the Ministry of Education, MOE or MARA for national workbooks, which can be used for schools and perhaps for universities, and private and retail e-commerce sales of premium 3D sets for private tutors and language centers, where we can provide them the template, so they can just print the template and fold the template into a cube, which is very easy and practical to be used in a class. And exportability framework is adaptable to IELTS and also TOEFL for global scalability. All right. And then the impact and alignment. So the IP, intellectual property, industrial design protection, and copyright, and it's actually aligned to SDG 4 quality education, inclusive tool for all proficiency levels. All right. And SDG 10, which we want to reduce inequalities, where it is suitable for low cost access for B40 students. All right. Okay, so that's all from us. Thank you so much.